Yeah, Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports CEO, executive, president with us on 365 Sports. Bob, are you like that with your phone on text messages?
I try and keep everything as empty as possible. I don't. It's like I used to have an in basket in my office, and if it got too full, I just throw the stuff away. And I figured it was that important. Somebody bring it back to me.
I love that. I need to do that more often myself. So try to explain this Disney ESPN Direct TV. I saw you when I saw you tweet this out about, hey, what's going on? And that I even saw that people are reaching out to the conference commissioners to try to have some help or support. What's going on between Disney ESPN and DirecTV?
Well, it's just, first of all, it's your typical kind of network versus distributor carriage issue. Although I've got to say this one smells a little different to me. Usually it's just a matter of price, but price is probably involved here. But it also seems like we're discussing things like how the ABC networks, Disney networks, would have to be distributed by DirecTV. For entities like Disney, Fox, when you buy a channel, you're not just buying one channel, you're buying a bundle of channels that include broadcast network, the sports networks, and, in Fox's case, Fox News Channel, Fox Business Channel, and in Disney's case, Nat Geo, FX, other non-sports related channels. The sports channels seem to get a lot of the press because it's a very top of mind type discussion. What it appears DirecTV's asking for is, they're probably fighting about price, but they're also asking for that bundle to be kind of decoupled so that they didn't necessarily have to carry all of Disney's channels from, A to Z, just the ones that they felt their subscribers wanted, or to have the ability to repackage, re-tier, offer skinny bundles as opposed to the giant bundle so that, people are only paying for what they really want to watch. And, certainly part of it is a response to the venue venture previously announced by ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers Discovery, which is currently tied up in court as a result of Fubo basically asking for a judge to stop everything. So, that's why I say it smells a little different because it's price, but it also appears that there's a lot of discussion about package as well as price.
Why? Yeah, I guess because it's not going to hurt them. Like nobody's going to not have ESPN. I guess you can withstand the subscriber loss if you have to, but why do they let it get down to this point where they even have to deal with bad PR?
Well, obviously they've been probably having discussions, and there's a reason that agreements are timed to expire the first week of September, because as it relates to sports channels, football, be it college or professional, is a big hammer. And the networks have historically used that date because that's what gets people bent out of shape. I mean, all you had to do is look at some of the comments on Twitter or whatever, on the message board. It seems to be running pretty much 50-50, people being pissed at ESPN and people being at Disney and people being pissed at DirecTV. The one thing that's a little different with these fights now is, you can change so easily between services. It used to be much more difficult to get out of contract as it relates to Comcast or DirecTV or, any distributor. But now you can, turn it off and you can turn on YouTube TV 5 minutes later, and you've got, you're able to kind of work around the problem. And I saw a lot of that happening this week, especially when, the football game, the USC LSU game kind of went out, mid-play.
Yep.
And the screen of death, as I call it, came up, the black screen of death that, we're no longer allowed to carry this channel. So, and today you saw the PR wars begin. Disney sent or DirecTV sent out a rather lengthy letter from their public affairs department that, talk to the conferences, commissioners and ADs and, various constituents related to collegiate sports saying, what was going on here. And ESPN had, Jimmy Pitaro was on CNBC this morning explaining their side of things. So we're into the PR wars now, which is, certainly part of any well-played strategy. And it's just going to have to run its course. I'm not sure. Somebody asked me what the odds are for this Monday because of the Monday Night Football game, and the way it's sounding right now is not real good. That it's going to be resolved by then. It seems as though DirecTV's pretty dug in, and Disney, et cetera, ESPN, and all their networks, they seem to be pretty dug in as well. So this could be a little different, and that's why I say it smells a little different, because lots of times these things are resolved pretty quickly. Case in point, last year ESPN had an issue with Charter, and it was a big thing, and then it got resolved right before the game on the first Sunday night game. Or I think they missed one, and it might have been the second game it was resolved. So we'll just have to wait and see, but it's not pretty, and everybody seems to be pulling out all the big guns.
Bob, what do you make of the future of the venue thing once the court case is resolved? Do you think this is something they have to worry about getting defeated, or do you think that they'll just have to morph it into something else?
I think it's hard to say which way the courts are going to go, but I believe what will happen ultimately is that there's going to be some level of bundling in the streaming world. And I think everybody recognizes that. I think what the big issue is, and why DirecTV is having the discussions they're having as it relates to distribution structure, is they just want to be treated on the same level. If these guys can get together, Fox, ESPN, or Fox, Disney, and Warner Brothers, and offer just a skinny bundle and not make you carry all the other channels, you can just buy the sport. DirecTV wants to be able to sell it in the same manner, and which I can certainly understand that. If venue's not allowed to go forward, I fully expect that each of those partners in venue will just come out with their own individual streaming service for direct to consumer. And, they'll probably all lose a whole bunch of money. And at some point, there'll be some form of consolidation. That's always kind of been the way it works in the media world. You lose money so you can afford to lose no more. And then you do some sort of a deal to hopefully create some economies of scale and a more attractive package as opposed to just selling it on your own.
Did you get I don't know, maybe I saw somebody that it was kind of a chuckle that this was going on, but I thought it might have even included, the Big Ten teams that were Pac-12 teams, and all of a sudden the Big Ten network, was it a week ago? It's not available on whatever that is. I mean, it's like, oh my, Comcast, right. Like, oh my God, no matter where we go, we have games we can't watch.
Right. It's that was slightly different. That's related to the Big Ten network, and what they're doing in that scenario is, now that Oregon, Washington, and the SoCal schools are, quote, Big Ten markets, the Big Ten network is trying to flip them from what was once an outer market rate to what's now an inner market rate, because schools reside there. And Comcast has not agreed to pay that extra rate. And so those games were blacked out this weekend in Oregon and Washington because they had not paid that higher rate. And so, you had a lot of people there doing the same thing, dumping Comcast or keeping Comcast in hopes that it gets resolved, but adding YouTube TV or some other carrier that, offers the Big Ten network so that they can watch those games. And that will go on. Each school has to be on the Big Ten network twice, one non-conference game, one conference game as it relates to football. So we still got another Oregon and Washington game coming up at some point, both which will be conference games. And you still have 2 UCLA games and 2 USC games that are going to be coming up as well. So Comcast isn't huge in Southern California, but they are the major cable operator in the state of Washington and the state of Oregon. So there was quite a bit of angst over that this week or last weekend, and there'll be another round of that when the games, another Oregon game and another Washington game are put on the schedule.
How much, when you said there was like 50% were mad at DirecTV or 50% were mad at Disney, ABC, whatever, ESPN, how much do CEOs, do those who are running these companies give a damn about what the customer thinks?
Oh, absolutely. They do, but they also, have to answer to their shareholders. And I think that's the kind of the fine line that everybody has to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Comcast or DirecTV, excuse me, and Comcast kind of feel that they're in a fight for their life. That those businesses have not performed well lately. They're losing subscribers left and right to the streaming business, and they have a belief that the programmers are trying to, win on both sides, win on the linear side and win on the streaming side. And that makes it tough to declare, a winner in any specific case, but certainly they care about the consumers, no doubt. It doesn't appear that way to people, but look, that's, subscribers, whether they're streaming subscribers or linear subscribers, it's the lifeblood of the television business. And without viewers, you don't really have a business. But that goes for Disney as well as it goes for DirecTV.
How do Oregon State and Washington State navigate an independent schedule and getting those games televised next year?
I would say, pretty similar to what they do this year. When they did the deal with the CW and a couple of games on Fox and had the scheduling alliance with Mountain West, they'd probably try and do something similar. I wouldn't read a whole lot into the fact that they didn't resolve an agreement with the Mountain West Conference for next year. They could be just kind of hanging around to see what might happen, but that doesn't mean they can't, put that, deal back together again in pretty short order. So, it's just, they didn't get to a deal now. It doesn't mean they can't get to one in the future. It's tougher being an independent these days because there's just not as many independents to schedule against, obviously. And with each conference going to more conference games as opposed to non-con games, it's a little more difficult. And you also have to remember is that Oregon State and Washington State only control the TV rights for their home games. If they're on the road, it's falling under somebody else's package. And that's, wouldn't be involved in whatever package they put together. I think they did a smart job this year in hooking up with CW and selling a couple of games to Fox because the most important thing for them was to be distributed and as widely as possible and remain relevant. And it's almost amusing that those two schools are being more widely distributed and having, broad linear network coverage from coast to coast, and Oregon and Washington can't even get the games on the cable operator in the state of Oregon and Washington. It's kind of like the shoes on the other foot. It's all the reasons that Oregon and Washington left. They didn't want to be on linear or they didn't want to be on streaming only. Well, they're not even on anything now. So
Right.
But that's, remember, that's just two games. Those schools, the other, 10 games that they have are, going to be very well, at least 9 of them will be will be very widely distributed.
Craig gave some numbers from the first week. Obviously, the Clemson, Georgia did like a 9 million. Notre Dame and A&M did a big number. Different times of the day. But what do you think from the early numbers that have come out? And then we had this brought up. How much could the Texas-Michigan game do this weekend?
The early numbers have been very, very promising. I think, it's hard to say that realignment had a lot to do with it because there wasn't a bunch of conference games. Right. I think there was there one that was a conference game. I can't remember if there was one. There's just some nice non-conference matchups. The numbers have been great, getting up around 9 million. That's fantastic. Just saw that LSU USC did 9.2 million, which that's a good Sunday night number. Obviously, the DirecTV blackout didn't hurt that one too badly. So that's a good sign, and I think it will also, play good the rest of the season, especially when you get a lot of these matchups that have never occurred before because of realignment. It'll be people tune in just out of want to see what happens. I think Texas, Michigan can, exceed 10, maybe 11. I think it's going to be a big number. I haven't looked to see what they're up against in that window. So, but it's going to be a good one. No doubt about it.
Hey man, we appreciate you. We've I know it's been somewhat calm. Of course, there's that Clemson and FSU thing with the ACC. Who knows how that's going to go? And those teams haven't won a game yet, by the way. But always great talking to you about some of the media. And hopefully things have calmed down, but always want to pick your brain whenever we can.
My pleasure. It's always good to talk to you guys. I hope this dispute ends quickly so that we can get back to the games and not having to talk about kind of the ugly dark side of this business.
Yeah, I know. I have both cable and I have ESPN Plus, but I also do have YouTube TV for right now. I've kind of enjoyed it, and I got to make my decisions on that with my budget, but it's kind of a nice little mix between them. So thanks for your time, Bob. Appreciate you as always.
All right. You guys take care.
Bob Thompson, man, you talk about a mother load.